Alas, for what's in a name? For that we would call a rose, if it would go by any name, would smell so sweet. Or would it? Hi, I'm Crystal the Cottage Witch, and today we're going to be talking about herbs, their astrological correspondences, and their folklore, and how herbs get their correspondences behind them. I totally butchered that. If you didn't know, that was from Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. But I butchered that. I'm going to be having a crazy bang day today. I don't know what's going on, so if they look a little wonky, please try to ignore it. It's probably going to be hard since I just pointed out, but you guys are here for educational content, so let's get into that. If you're new here, hi, my name is Crystal the Cottage Witch. I've been practicing and studying the occult for about 28 years now in total. And on this channel, we discuss witchcraft and its folklore, history, educational bits, sometimes psychology, a little bit of science, some tips and holes and tidbits, and it's a plethora of other things. So if you're new here, welcome. And if you've been here for a while, welcome back. Today, we're diving into a fascinating and magical world where two ancient traditions meet: herbalism and astrology. We're going to explore how the planets influence the herbs that we use for healing, magic, and self-care, and also how they got their correspondences, why herbs are tied to certain things. You'll learn how ancient cultures saw this connection, why certain herbs are linked to certain planets, and how you can tap into this wisdom for your own curiosities or rituals. Whether you're into herbs, astrology, or just curious on how the stars and planets and plants are connected, this video will have something for you. So get cozy, maybe grab a nice herbal tea, and let's get started. So, herbal astrology. What is it? To understand herbal astrology, we first need to grasp how ancient astrologers viewed the planet. These weren't just distant celestial bodies. They were seen as powerful deities, each governing a certain aspect of life on Earth. Most will point out how different deities already in existence were linked into certain planets, but we'll get there in a second. The 7 traditional planets: Sun, Moon, which we know aren't really planets, but again, we'll get there. But the Sun, the Moon, Mars, Venus, Mercury, Jupiter, and Saturn were believed to have a cosmic influence on everything from human behavior to the plants and herbs that grow beneath our feet. Astrology was such an important part of medicine until the end of the 17th century. Each planet rules over specific plants based on their energetic properties, okay? For instance, the sun, representing vitality and life, is connected to herbs that invigorate. Am I saying that right? Invigorating? Invigorate. Figure eight. You know what I mean. And uplift, like St. John's wort or sunflower. Mars, the planet of action and war, rules over fiery herbs, like chili peppers and ginger. These plants have an intensity and heat that match Mars' energetic qualities. Herbal astrology, before we get into everything, isn't like a new age trend either. It's deeply rooted in history, from the ancient Greeks to the Egyptians. And even before that, ancient cultures believed that the stars and the plants were intricately linked. The ancient Greeks coined the term Sympatheia, which, think about it. Sympathetic magic, Sympatheia. Ooh, connections, are they starting to happen? But Sympatheia means harmony of all things. They saw the plants of Earth as part of a grand cosmic design, each one resonating with the energy of a specific planet. So one of the most important texts from the ancient world, the Emerald Tablet of Hermes Trismegitus? Hermes Trismegitus. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong because I've only ever read it. You never had to say it out loud before, but we're just going to refer to him as Hermes for now. But the Emerald Tablet of Hermes, to sum it up, echoes this principle with the idea of as above, so below. I'm sure you are very much aware of this term. If you ever wondered where it came from, that is where it came from, the Emerald Tablet. But a lot of people are aware of this term, especially if you work with hermetic principles and properties, which is believed by many to be the basis of magic. Hermes, hermetic, in case if you weren't aware of any of that, just dropping in other little extra nuggets. But I'll drop in one more nugget. The staff of Hermes, Hermes, the god of medicine and herbs and everything else like that, this was his staff. And I'm sure most of you also recognize this symbol too as like the symbol for like modern medicine and in hospitals. But when I do my big symbology and folklore video, you'll probably realize that there is way more out there that has to do with like metaphysics and esoteric knowledge and everything else like that that is in plain sight, but that's going to be another video. But let's go back to the Emerald Tablet, and as above, so below. It suggests that the influence of the stars and planets is not confined to just the heavens. It also expands to plants, animals, and even the human body. Astrologers would use this cosmic knowledge to decide when to plant, when to harvest, or prepare medicinal herbs. For example, if you needed to harvest a plant to treat a certain ailment, you'd check the zodiac and the planetary positions to ensure that you were doing it at the optimal time. This practice ensured that the plant carried the highest energetic charge for healing. I'm gonna pop up right here a list of the planets and ailments, just in case you want to take a screenshot real quick. If you're like, oh, so you don't have to look it all up, I'll just pop it up right here for you so you can take a screenshot if you wanted to take notes. Now, we're going to mention another very important part of herbal astrology, and one of the most important aspects of herbal correspondence. One of the most fascinating concepts in herbal astrology is the Doctrine of Signatures, a theory that dates back to ancient Greece. The idea is simple but powerful, and that is plants carry visual and energetic clues about their medicinal properties. Basically, if a plant looks like part of the body, it could be used to heal that part of the body. I'm just going to point out part of this is why in the Victorian age so many mummies went missing, because one, people used them for paint, and then the other half, people ate them. Like they would eat the skull to like cure their headaches and stuff like that. But yeah, we'll circle back to herbs though instead of mummies. Like take walnuts for example. I use this in my iron video for an example of the brain. Their wrinkled brain-like appearance made ancient herbalists believe that they could heal head ailments. Similarly, sorry, I'm still working 12-hour days, 6 days a week. Similar to that, lungwort, whose leaves resemble human lungs, has long been used to treat respiratory illnesses. But it doesn't just stop at the body parts. The Doctrine of Signature also considers things such as color, scent, and habitat. For instance, if a plant grows in dark, damp conditions, it might be associated with the element water, which is calming and soothing. If it grows in the harsh sun, it may be associated with sun or fire, amplifying its warmth and vitality. Now let's break down the elemental connections. And don't worry, we're going to go into each part of it. I'm just giving you what we're going to be talking about through this. In case if you're like, wait, I still don't understand, I'm still confused. Don't worry, we're getting there. I'm just laying out what we're going to be talking about. Ancient herbalists just didn't associate plants with planet. They also linked them to the 4 classical elements: earth, air, fire, and water. These elements were thought to govern different qualities of plants and their action in the body. For example, plants that are hot and dry, like cayenne pepper. I am so tired, I'm so sorry. Are considered fire plants. They're activating, stimulating, and can boost circulation. On the other hand, cooling and moist plants like peppermint or aloe vera are ruled by water, and they soothe, calm, and reduce inflammation. It's kind of an easier way. We're going to get into a second, but it's also a kind of easy way. If it's something that you know that could cool something down, water. If it's something that you know could spice something up, fire. These are very, very basic, but they get a little bit more complex as we go on. Earth planets like patchouli or sage are grounding and stabilizing, helping to bring balance to the body and mind. Air plants such as lavender or angelica have an expansive, uplifting quality. They promote clarity, mental focus, and creativity. So let's explore each planet and the herb it rules a bit more. First up is the sun. I'll move over so I can put some things on screen if it makes it a little bit helpful for you guys. The sun is the ruler of vitality, and life. The sun governs herbs that promote health and energy, such as St. John's wort, which helps with depression and enhances mood. Don't forget, St. John's wort does have side effects that do work against antidepressants if you take any. I have a whole herbal list of herbs that cause side effects and medications on my 10 things I wish I knew when starting to begin my practice. Even though my mic is terrible in that, I have the list on screen so you could just go to that timestamp and click it and screenshot it if you were ever curious. But St. John's wort helps with depression and enhances your mood. And you might also find calendula, whose bright yellow flowers resemble the sun in and itself. Then we have the moon, which is all about emotions, your inner self, psychic awareness, self-care, growth, and illumination. These type of plants are more kind of like that, like water variety, you know what I mean? They promote that dreamy vibe. Herbs like jasmine and white willow, which also need to grow by water, and they're only found in watery-like environments. Next, we have Mars, the warrior planet all about action, energy, and aggression. Plants ruled by Mars tend to be like hot, spicy, and stimulating. Think ginger, garlic, chili peppers. These herbs are used for protection, strength, courage, helping to overcome obstacles and boost vitality. We have Mercury, which rules the mind, learning, writing, clarity, and meditation. So you'll have like those herbs of like ginkgo and rosemary. Those types of like stimulating herbs, like all herbs can be stimulating, but do you know what I mean? Because, all right, think of that saying, like people want you to smell rosemary while studying for an exam because rosemary has scientific benefits that have been proven to help boost your cognitive function and help you retain your memory. I think you're starting to see the trend now, you know? Then we have Venus, the planet of love and beauty. These govern herbs that are gentle, nurturing, and related to the feminine energy. Roses with their soothing properties and connection to love magic. This falls under Venus. So can lavender, which calms the nervous system and promotes peace. Lavender is a duality herb, which we'll get to in a second. Then we have Jupiter, the planet of expansion and growth. These govern herbs that support abundance and prosperity. Think of plants like cinnamon, which most people use in their money spells, or bay laurel, which promotes wisdom and protection. And lastly, we have Saturn, the planet of structure and discipline. Saturn is connected to herbs that are grounding and sometimes harsh. Think of like henbane or comfrey. These plants are used for introspection, boundaries, and clearing negative energy. Kitty, you want to say hi? I don't think she wants to say hi. Anyway, I'm sure the planets is kind of making you think how each day of the week is ruled by a different planet, and how each day has planetary hours. Again, this is not a new practice. I'm going to read and put up a little snippets of Blood Graves' Astrological Practice of Psychic, I think it's called. It's from 1671. But I'm going to put that on screen as I read it to just kind of help you break this down a little bit more. All herbs and plants which are under the dominion of the sun are gathered on Sundays, and all those herbs and plants which are under the dominion of the moon are gathered on Mondays, and all those under Mars on Tuesdays, and all those under Mercury on Wednesdays, and all those under Jupiter on Thursdays, and all those under Venus on Fridays, and all those under Saturn on Saturdays. Now, every planet which is Lord of the day, then the first and 8th hour of the day, each day being divided into 12 equal parts, which we call the planetary hours. And so the planetary hours are near twice so long in the highest of the summer as they are in the midst of the winter. So what that means is 1 a.m. on a Monday is the hour of the moon. 8 a.m. on a Monday is the hour of the moon. 1 p.m. on a Monday is the hour of the moon. 8 p.m. on a Monday is the hour of the moon. 1 a.m. on Tuesday is the hour of Mars. You see what I mean? So like everyone's planetary hours are going to be different due to time zones and hemispheres, and you can look up your own planetary hours for your own practice. But all of this was because of herbal astrology. Isn't that wild? We're gonna go more into this too, don't worry. And like, let's not forget the golden chain in all of this. So the golden chain, if you've never heard of it before, is an ancient principle that suggests that everything in the universe is connected. The stars, the planets, the elements, and even the plants all have a link that ties them back to the divine source of all things. When you work with herbs, you're not just tapping into their physical properties. You're tapping into their cosmic connections. I don't know why I got so close in like your face like that. You're tapping into the plant's cosmic connections, mysticalness. There's even archaeological evidence that indicates that humans were using herbal medicine over 60,000 years ago. So there's this ancient Neanderthal burial site. Is it Neanderthal or Neanderthal? Either way, there's this ancient burial site, and it's like Shanidar. It's either 4 or 6. I know there's a V and I know there's a 1. I just can't remember the order. I gotta look it up. I'll put it in. But it has pollen and plant remains within it to show that plants back then were being used for medicinal purposes. Which I know. I mean, it makes sense, right? You could only eat with what is available to you. And we learn through trial and error, especially back then. But this evolved so greatly over time, with so many ancient tablets of herbal information and planetary information coming from Mesopotamia and Egypt and Greece, all being written about herbal correspondences. Classification and correspondence was first done by appearance and environment, but then it evolved, and it evolved to include its genetic purpose through a more scientific lens. And you know, some people went through intuition as well. I'm gonna pause right here and put in the other reminder in all my videos. I say it all the time, but just in case you're new here, magical advice is not medical advice. And unless you're a trained professional with vast knowledge of the situation and the herbs that you're working with and the person that you're working with, herbs are not hospitals. This is just for educational purposes only. I have to put the disclaimer, but let's go back to it. The Planetary Association of Plants and Herbal Astrology mainly comes from two things: plant traits and their medicinal properties. I'm just going to rehash what I said before in the beginning to drive this point home. A plant's astrological correspondence is a way to categorize its specific nature, which is reflected in the traits of that plant, including growth form, color of its flowers, the shape of its leaves, the scent, the taste, the reproductive structures, habitat, and other characteristics. And this is also tied in with the effect, not facts, but this is also tied in with the effect that the plant has upon the human body, and it's used to assign a particular planetary affliction, aka even their medicinal and psychoactive properties. Sorry, I moved my camera, so I don't know if the lens is right here or if the lens is right here or where I'm staring. So if I look like I'm looking off to the side, I'm sorry. Now, where a plant grows is also used as a trait that can also be an indication of its planetary nature. We're going to use a very basic example, and then I'm going to quote a book directly. But herbs that generally grow in waste places like graveyards or ditches are generally plants of Saturn. So I'm going to read Culpeper's entry on henbane. We talked about henbane briefly in Saturn because it was the other example that I could think of. But this is from his Compleat Herbal, published in 1653, so even before the Doctrine of Signatures. And it states the following: I wonder how astrologers can take on them to make this an herb of Jupiter, and yet Mizaldus, a man of penetrating brain, was of that opinion as well as the rest. The herb is indeed under the domain of Saturn, and I prove it by this argument. All the herbs which delight most to grab in Saturnian places are Saturnian herbs, but henbane delights most to grow in Saturnian places, and whole cartloads of it may be found near the places where they empty the common jakes, and scarce a ditch to be found without it growing by it. Ergo, it is an herb of Saturn. I'm also just going to point out real quick that henbane is a poisonous herb, which only adds to its Saturn nature. nature. So like the use of medicine of celestial bodies, like aka the 12 zodiacs, and of the sun and the moon and planets is an ancient practice. However, its practice reached like its peak in Europe in like the late Middle Ages throughout the early modern periods, which, you know, we discussed earlier. Which it's wild to me that for like all of humankind, for as long as we've been around, we have been using herbal astrology for medicine longer than we haven't been. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? Now we don't use like herbal astrology for like medicines and stuff like that. Now, you know, we have prescriptions and whatnot, and they're not like, okay, Jupiter is, you know what I mean, is not direct right now, so like we don't do medicine like that anymore, but we've been doing that longer than we haven't been doing that. Isn't that wild to think about? Maybe that's just me. Anyway, let's go back up to its hype up time. During this period, medical practitioners regarded different signs of the zodiacs and the planets as ruling over different parts of the body. As in, you know, like controlling diseases and like the different usefulness of different drugs. I know like when you look up your zodiac and it tells you about like the body parts associated with your sign, I'm sure you're probably familiar with this. That is where that comes from. Isn't that wild? So, during these time periods throughout the Middle Ages until very recently into the very late 17th century, to be effective, plants and herbs had to be collected during the times in which their associated planets were visible. These times were calculated from an almanac in which the rising and setting times of the planets were given to gather the medicinal plants and herbs at any time, other than when their planet was visible, would prevent them from being effective. So basically, aka if they weren't picked during their planetary hours, planetary days, and active zodiac signs, they weren't going to work. Like, really let that sink in. I know I label my herbs this way. I know some of you guys do too. But, you know, if you ever look into your herbs and the properties and what it's known to do and what it's used to do, if you look them up, I'm sure you'll see the elemental sign, the zodiac sign, with the properties of it. Like back then, this was done for medicinal purposes and it was taken so seriously. I'm going to mention this like one more example. You know, bloodletting, very popular cure. I don't know how to word that because now we know better, but bloodletting back then was thought to be its most potent and to only really work correctly when the moon was in a certain constellation. Like crazy moon governs water, so like you can see where they got that from, but still, woo. Anyway, so back then, medieval scientists and medical practitioners saw the solar system as being made up of 7 planets. They counted the sun and moon as planets, and then added to them Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. These were the planets that could be like seen with like the naked eye, you know what I mean? You know those nights, especially like in the winter, if you're in the northern hemisphere, you see that big star, but it's not really a star, it's Jupiter. Tell the difference between a star and a planet because, you know, stars twinkle, but, you know, they were able to calculate it. After the invention of the telescope in like the very early 1600s, like 1608 or something like that, Uranus, people still call it that. I heard some people saying Uranus. Do they just say it so people won't like make fun of it? Anyway, that planet, Neptune, Ceres, and Pluto were discovered and added to the list of astrological influences. Now, there's always going to be like slight differences and like disagreements on things. Like if you are familiar with like Agrippa and his 3 books of occult philosophy, I lost my copies. I don't know if someone borrowed them and then never returned them or if they got misplaced somewhere, but it's so expensive. I missed that book so much. I had the giant book with all of them mixed in. Oh, I need to get copies again. Wait, what was I talking about? Agrippa! So in his books, I think it's the first book, book 1. Since I no longer have it, I can't run and double check it for you. So if someone knows for definite that it's book 1, please confirm in the comments so it doesn't feel like I'm lying to you, but I'm pretty sure it's book 1 because it's all focused on natural magic. But it mentions, you know, magical herbalism or a form of herbal astrology. It's not like a huge section of it from what I can remember, like it's not like a giant chapter dedicated to it, but Agrippa explains from his perspective in the book that parts of the plant are governed by the planet, with things like roots being ruled by Saturn, their flowers being ruled by Venus. Which again, if you think about everything that we've learned so far, how plants generally get their correspondences, roots being ruled by Saturn does make a lot of sense. And their flowers being ruled by Venus to be used in those types of workings, versus classifying the whole plant. Some people do this too without even realizing it. Because if we go back to sympathetic magic and the law of contagion, a lot of times, and in witchcraft and in magic, we work with what we have. Roots just make so much sense for Saturnian workings, while flowers would make so much sense for Venusian workings. You know what I mean? This is another reason as to why some people might see different correspondences of herbs. You know, they'll vary. It won't be too much of a stark difference, but if you're in two different hemispheres, the planets aren't going to be showing up the same in the southern hemisphere, and same with constellations as they would be in the northern hemisphere. It also depends on how people view and classify things. And again, the Doctrine of Signatures touches back on the folklore aspect of herbs and why certain ones are believed to have certain properties. It's all insanely fascinating, and there's so many rabbit holes. I wanted to go down so many in this video, but I don't want this video to be insanely long, and I also don't want it to be boring, so I'm just sticking to like the facts and the folklore for right now and trying to keep it as summed up as possible while still giving you like enough of the information for each so you still understand it. For the elemental aspect of things, I'm gonna pop some things on screen right now in case you want to screenshot anything or write anything down while I explain why some plants can have, you know, multiple elemental correspondences. So first we have cold, which is sedating, quiet, and slow. Then we have hot, which is exciting, activating, moves, and circulates. Then we have dry for focus, constricts, constrain, dries, and irritates. And lastly, we have wet, expanses, diffuses, infilling, moistens, and eases. And if you look at this chart, herbs that are like cold and dry are considered earth, where if it's cold and wet, I'm actually just going to cover the whole screen with it right now. I'm going to go away for a second. I'm going to put both charts on screen to make it easier. While cold and wet represents water. I mean, like, obviously, but still. Side note, this makes me think of that whole argument of water itself not being wet. You know, something's wet when it touches water, since wetness is a sensation, but still. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Okay, but let's look at the example for two elements for an herb, okay? We'll use patchouli. Patchouli is exciting and activating, and so it is hot and also expanses and diffuses into a space. So it is also wet, so it could fall into an air element on the chart. But it's also known for like its sedating, slowing nature and its focus. So it could also be cold and dry, which means earth. Here we can have two elements mixed in. Patchouli's nature is of elemental air and elemental earth. You can see it in patchouli's magical use. It's used in money magic, which is earth, you know, grounding and finances, and also in divination, sight blends, and for astral work, because it's considered an air quality. Pretty cool, right? So now that you know the elemental and planetary correspondences, how can you use this knowledge in your own life? One way to connect to your zodiac sign, to the herbs that align with your planetary energy. If you are a fiery Aries, you might gravitate towards Mars-ruled herbs, like ginger or chili pepper, to enhance your natural boldness. If you are a gentle Cancer ruled by the moon, you might find comfort in moon herbs like chamomile or lemon balm to promote emotional healing and balance. Some may go with what was taught to them or what has been used over and over and over again, because a lot of people believe that so much energy and manifestation and intention was put into using and doing the same thing over and over again. It became its own form of like an egregore. Another way might be to look at the herbs that you use most. What are your go-to herbs? Were they picked intuitively or by what's around you? Our environment can influence our magic in so many ways. And not just like our internal environment, if that makes any sense, but the physical environmental plane on which we like live, like the area in which we live. Is this making sense? I hope this is making sense. But if you live near like a wet forest where there's like waters or rivers or just everything is kind of like damp, you might end up doing a lot of Saturnian type workings, such as protections or baneful workings, secretive workings, and injustice workings. I say injustice over karma because here in the West we have a complete different definition of the word than what the word karma actually means. Here we use it to, see what someone deserves versus the actual meaning where it has to do with like multiple lives that you have lived. Anyway, that's a whole thing by itself. Normally we do it because we're judging others, which, it's human. We do that all the time. Everybody judges somebody in some aspect of some kind of way. But we normally do it based on their actions. But when we're looking at ourselves, we do it with our intentions. Even though our actions were only visible, the only visible thing, our intentions aren't visible. You know what I mean? Just saying. Another way to look at it is how accurate do you feel that you have to be with the correspondences with working with these herbs? Does that make sense? I felt like that was just like a word salad. But are you always wondering if you're using the right herb for like the right correspondence or the right working? Which, that's also fine. Specific herbs have their correspondence for a reason. Either due to their folkloric beliefs, due back all the way to the Doctrine of Signatures, their planetary alignments, or their medicinal properties, which kind of helped add credence to their magical properties. You know what I mean? It's just really fascinating looking back at like all the herbal astrological documents going back from all over the world. And in case any of you guys want to go down a rabbit hole, I'm going to pop some names on screen right now, just in case you want to screenshot any of them. Like I said, I want to talk about a lot more in this video, but I also want you guys to get excited about stuff if any of this excites you and want to look up more and find the things on your own. I just want to help point you in the right direction. I just want to help you get those witchy gears started. I know I say it like in every single video, so you guys are probably so sick of hearing this from me. But all I want from you guys is just to question things, not to take things at face value. Which I'm going to add in, this is an opinion-based thing. I'm putting an opinion-based thing in here. This is not fact. This is not any of that. This is Crystal the Cotted Witch's opinion on something that is witchcraft-based. So don't take this as like fact set in stone. But a lot of people, when working with herbs, they'll be like, intention is everything. Intention is everything. I abide by, intention is a lot for certain things. But for working with specific herbs, with my belief, intention isn't everything. A little while ago, I was talking about like karma and injustice, right? How we judge people based on their actions, but we'll judge us by our intentions. Because even though we only saw the action from the other person, we can't see their intention, so how are we supposed to know? You know what I mean? The same thing goes for us. It doesn't matter what our intention was when the action is such an intense result. When we're doing witchcraft in this aspect of where we're just throwing together herbs without any basis knowledge, right? Like you could do things intuitively, yeah, but most people do things intuitively when they already have a base knowledge of certain things. But when you're just mixing and matching and just basically demanding something to do your dirty work for you without understanding anything that you're doing, at best, you'll have herbs that cancel each other out and the spell won't work. At worst, you're mixing in something that could potentially make very deadly vapors and fumes or a combustible reaction that can very seriously physically harm you. And it wouldn't matter what your intention was then either. It would just matter what your action was. And that action was throwing a whole bunch of things together because you wanted someone to like an Instagram picture or something like that. You know what I mean? Like that was just... Calm down, Crystal. That was an intense example. Can you even like pictures on Instagram? I don't have Instagram. But I think you should at least have a basic knowledge of everything that you're working with. I think of one example, I had seen it in my comments. Oh, I forgot who said it. Oh my gosh, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry whoever said it that I can't remember. But again, talking about love spells where they're like, add in this and this and like black pepper for like a, you know what I mean? People just making up stuff and throwing in whatever they want. You know, these herbs have correspondences for a reason. And my belief is that intention isn't everything. There needs to be conscious action with it as well. So there's my 2 cents on that. Anyway, going back to like intuition. I'm sure some of you guys, you know, once you have worked with certain herbs before and then you're doing a spell or you get called to do a working and to work with certain things, you would pick them out and then, you know, you were like, this is for this. I'm using this for this. And then afterwards, when you looked into it, you figured out that, wow, this was perfectly what I needed right there. You know, that's intuition. That shows that you already have a relationship with things. You know, some people are just naturally like that. Other people, you know, once they kind of get into their groove and they're feeling themselves and their craft. I don't know what kind of dance move these are, but this is the feeling yourself dance moves. I think that was like a Harlem Shake. Oh my God, is it 2015? But working intuitively is different than trying to do everything with intention and just throwing random things in and just demanding that they work. I hope that makes sense. There's a big difference between like working and already being established in your craft and doing things for certain reasons compared to just getting in because you want something to go your way. Hope this is making sense. Anyway, we're going to move on from this. I said it before and I'll say it again. On this channel, I want to present my beliefs, not project them. That's why I'll give you as much as I can from information from one end of the spectrum, and that way if I'm ever inserting something that is just of my personal belief or my personal opinion, I let you know. So if you're taking notes on anything, you know that, hey, this is someone's opinion. This isn't a fact. I try to cover as much ends of the spectrum as I can, just because some of you guys maybe never work with herbs, or maybe some of you guys never work with planetary correspondences of herbs, or maybe some of you are more like ceremonial in your magical practice, or practice high magic and work with the planets and plan out each spell or ritual by the planetary day and the planetary hour. Or maybe some of you guys just do that randomly as needed. Maybe some of you guys are now inspired to try divination on a Monday on the hour of the moon and see if that is more beneficial for you, since you never worked with planetary magic before and their herbal correspondences. And lastly, there are probably just some of you in here that were just curious in how herbs got their correspondences, and you have no desire, no interest in witchcraft or magic whatsoever, and that's totally fine. Everyone is welcome here, even if witchcraft isn't your broom and hat. I'm not good at winking, I'm so sorry. Hey, if you're still here, can you drop down an herb emoji real quick, or a plant emoji? It could be like the herb of the plant, it could be any of them. Again, I'm trying to see if this long form content is like educational or engaging. If it, like, you know, if this is helping you, please just leave something down below so I know someone made it this far, because my analytics don't show me the proper times for everything. The next time you reach for your favorite herb, remember that you're connecting with an ancient cosmic energy. The planets have been guiding our use of plants for centuries. And now you can use that same wisdom for your own needs, for whatever, your spells or anything else like that. You have the charts and everything that I gave you. That way, if you wanted to try and guess before you look up the plants' correspondences, how many of them you could get right. But whether it's a Mars-inspired ginger root to boost your energy, or a Venus rose to open up your heart, the stars are always a leaf away. Was that corny? Was that corny or was that cringe? I don't care. I already said it. I'm sticking by it. I'm standing my ground. If you enjoyed this summed up deep dive of herbal astrology, please like the video and maybe consider subscribing, but no pressure. This is just so you won't miss out on other future long form educational content that I do, as well as like witchcraft tips and magical things that I share. And I would love to hear from you. What's your favorite herb? And how do you feel like it aligns with your personal astrology? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Keep connecting the stars and the plants. I'm just gonna fake wink because I'm so bad at winking. Since I'm filming these in bulk, I'm filming every single day for like the next week, and then I'm just going to spend weeks editing them. I don't know which is going to be done first because my work hours are so crazy, so I don't have a heads up for the next video. And I'm still low energy just due to, you know, spending more time working than eating and sleeping. And then my time where I'm not working, I'm trying to do these videos and, you know, maybe eat. So I don't have the heads up for the next videos, but I do have a few different videos planned. I do have one that has to do with science, psychology, and witchcraft, and some fascinating recent experiments that were done, but I'm worried it might be a little bit too controversial. Even though I'm not putting an opinion on it, I just think it would be fascinating to open up and discuss. So I don't know, I might wait on that one, but I so want to talk about it with somebody. Oh my gosh. But like I said, I'm still going to be uploading because I love witchcraft and I love you guys, and for some reason you guys enjoy how I deliver my content talking about witchcraft. You guys are absolutely amazing. Like, you guys are so amazing, even if I'm behind. Because like I said, everything's scheduled to upload, so like I'm not seeing everything in real time. It just uploads when it uploads. But you guys are amazing. Like, you guys are so cool. And I could sit here and explain things like how I normally would just say someone to like a friend in the room with me, and I could just talk to you like how I would if we were just having like coffee or tea, and we're in a secret room having a tea party discussing occult philosophy and conspiracy theories, or, well, we don't talk about conspiracy theories, but like hidden knowledge and things like that, and spooky things. And, you know, it's so cool. I don't have to pretend to do anything or like be anybody else. I could just be myself, and that is absolutely enough for you guys, which thank you. Thank you seriously. All of you guys, like, I was worried about wanting to make sure that I created a safe space for everybody in my area. You guys have gone over and beyond to make this a safe space for me. And seriously, thank you guys. Like, seriously. It is so cool that I don't have to worry about my energy levels. Sometimes I could be as silly as I want, or sometimes if I'm more chill, you guys are fine with that too. You guys are fine with the way I deliver my teaching format, and like, you guys are so awesome. You guys are so awesome. I seriously, like, seriously, thank you for being here, and seriously, thank you for being you. Seriously, you guys are amazing. And if you're new here, and if you're still here, I really hope that you stick around too. But I hope you're having a great day, night, evening, afternoon, twilight, and whatever energy space it is that you may be watching this. And I really, truly hope that good things happen to you. Bye!